Serifi, a girl, gets taken in chains to a place called the Kingdom of Beasts, Osmargo, as a kind of offering. The king is interested when she's impolite to his helper, Anubis, but she isn't scared. Her name means sacrifice, and her foster parents raised her as a stand-in for their own daughter, and she's okay with her destiny. The king treats her as a guest for a short time and shows her a town on the border where flowers grow, which is one of the few places in the kingdom that isn't filled with poisonous air. On the night they plan to do the sacrifice, in a hidden underground room, Serifi faces an attacker who wants to harm the king, but someone suddenly stops him. It turns out that this person is actually the king, and he feels very bad about hiding his true identity because his mother was a regular human. This special transformation happens on rare moonlit nights of the revelation, when he's supposed to consume the sacrifice. He secretly sets the sacrifices free and cuts himself to make it seem like they bled. He also symbolically breaks Serifi's chains. The next day, when he's in his beast form, he shocks everyone in his court by saying that Serifi will be his queen. Serifi calls the unnamed king Leonheart, which means brave heart, and he's okay with that name. The king's advisors ask him to think again about his choice for a queen, but he says no. He tells Serifi not to call him Leonheart in front of others. Serifi makes some paper flowers to pretty up the castle and compares Leonheart to a carpenter bee because he's big and gentle. At a big meal where they're introducing Serifi to the rest of the kingdom, the guests from different beast races are surprised to find out a human will be the queen. Serifi wins them over by helping the servants serve food, and this also impresses Leonheart. During the meal, a reptilian tries to make Serifi trip, and she ends up spilling wine on the king. But Leonheart knows what's going on and gets ready to hurt the troublemaker, but Serifi stops him to prevent any fighting. After the meal, Serifi feels bad for not being more helpful, but the king takes her to a beautiful faraway place on his dragon-like holy beast Wyber. He tells her that her job is to help control his angry side, just like she did with the reptilian. Then he lets her call him Leonheart when they're alone. Serifi tries to learn things in Osmargo, but Anubis gives up because she's not very good at studying. Anubis mentions that Leonheart hasn't taken a break in a long time, so Serifi asks him to take a walk with her in the town. Leonheart hides his face with a hood, and they both pretend to be beasts. They have a good time talking to the people, and even help a lost child find his mom. But Serifi starts feeling sick, and her disguise falls off. The people get really mad when they see she's a human, and Leonheart has to run away with her. Back in the palace, Serifi passes out, and the doctor says she got poisoned from the bad air in the kingdom. Serifi wakes up in a human town, where a doctor and his wife are taking care of her. They tell her that someone left her at their door with money and a note in a language they can't understand. She stays with them and helps out. When the people in the town find out she was the sacrifice, they make a mess at the clinic and hurt the doctor. They make her leave, and she feels really sad. She goes into the woods, but Leonheart, looking like a human, finds her. He explains that the note said he'd come back for her after he got a special ring to protect her from the bad air. They go back home, and Serifi thinks of the ring like a wedding ring. Serifi finds out that Leonheart's mom pretended to be a beast. She meets Vivian, who is the cat's princess. Vivian and other princesses from different beast groups want to marry Leonheart, or at least be his special friend. One day, Serifi walks in on Vivian trying to get close to Leonheart in a romantic way. She feels jealous and leaves, not knowing that Leonheart kicked Vivian out. Serifi becomes friends with Amit, who is the reptilian's princess. Amit has been sent away until she can get close to Leonheart. Jormungand, the reptilian guard captain, comes back from a mission, and Amit tells Serifi that she's been in love with him since he helped her when she was a child. At a big meal to celebrate Jormungand's return, the other princesses tear Amit's dress, but Serifi lends her a dress that makes everyone look at her. Amit is happy when Jormungand recognizes her. Vivian threatens Serifi because she wants to get close to Leonheart and control him. But Amit comes to help Serifi, and when Leonheart shows up, he gets angry and tells Vivian to leave. The princesses go back to their places, except for Amit, who Leonheart makes Serifi's helper. Leonheart tells Serifi that he doesn't need anyone else, he just wants her. This makes Serifi really happy. Anubis tells Serifi that she has to show she can be a good queen by summoning a holy beast. But Leonheart explains that because she has no magic, she have to use her own life energy for the spell, and it might bring a bad demon instead. Serifi wants to help, so she agrees to try, even though she messes up the spell many times and hurts herself. While resting, Serifi says she's ready to give up her life, but Leonhardt reminds her that she needs to live for him. That makes her determined, and she tries the spell again. This time, she summons a baby phoenix named Bennu. Sarafai is the only one who can understand what he says. Bennu is really proud and not very polite. When Anubis questions if he's truly a phoenix, Bennu shares that he ended up like this after using all his power to heal soldiers who didn't appreciate it. Then 2 attackers shoot an arrow at Bennu, and it barely hits him and makes him fall from a wall. Sarifa jumps out of a window to try to save him. To protect her, Bennu turns into his full phoenix form, catches her, and flies high into the sky, which amazes everyone. The people who shot at Bennu get questioned, but they say they did it on instinct because they saw a human. Then they do something really bad to themselves. A human guy attacks the guards, demanding to see Leonhardt. They catch him and put him in a cell. He's really angry at the beasts for what happened to Sarifi. But when he sees Sarifi is actually alive, he's relieved. She tells everyone that he's her childhood friend Ilya, who hates beasts for attacking his village and promised to protect her. Sarifi convinces Leonhardt to let Ilya go back home, but after he's free, he faints because he's so hungry. They put him in a guest room. When Sarifi and Amnit bring him food, he's mean to Amnit because she's a beast. He asks Sarifi to go with him, but she refuses because she's going to marry Leonhardt. This makes him really mad. After comforting Amnit, Sarifi brings Ilya more food. He tries to tell her that a beast like Leonhardt can't really love her, but she won't listen. So he knocks her out and takes her away. Anubis, who wanted Sarifi gone, says she left with him on her own. But Amnit reminds Leonhardt of all the hard work Sarifi did to prove herself. Leonhardt leaves Jormungand in charge while he goes after them on Wyber. Bennu joins Wyber and Leonhardt to help them find Sarifi. He can talk to Leonhardt, and Wyber translates what Bennu says. Ilya is taking Sarifi on a horse, but they get attacked by a group of hyena men. Ilya kills them, but when he tries to hurt a child among them, Sarifi helps the child escape and asks why he's going so far. He tells her that he thinks all beasts are bad and that he loves her. She sadly says no to him and explains that there are good and bad beasts, just like humans. Ilya says that before he met her, beasts killed and ate his mom and little sister Misha, and because of that, he won't stop until all the beasts are gone. He ties her up just as Leonhardt arrives, and they start fighting. Leonhardt doesn't fight back much and gets stabbed in the belly. Ilya stops when he sees Sarifi crying over Leonhardt, realizing that she really loves him. Bennu heals Leonhardt, and Ilya makes Leonhardt promise to protect Sarifi. Bennu flies Sarifi and Ilya to a human place so they can say goodbye properly. Back in the palace, everyone is happy that Sarifi is back, except Anubis. They have a garden party to celebrate. Sarifi thinks about how she can't stop the hate between humans and beasts, but right now, they are happy together. There's a big party to celebrate Duke Galwaz, who is a war hero from a fish-like group called the Ichthans. Galwaz is mean to his servant, who looks different because of a burn. When he arrives, he insults Sarifi because she's a human. She tries to show him around the palace, but she makes a mistake, which makes him really mad. He gets even angrier when she can't drink the wine he gives her. Sarifi leaves the party, but Leonhardt follows her, shares food with her, and gives her a kiss. Later, she asks Galois to dance, but he sends his servant in his place. The servant tells her that he got burned by humans as payback for killing some of them. But he doesn't hate humans. When he sees Sarifi and his servant having a good time, Galois gets mad and threatens his servant with a sword. But Sarifi protects him. When Galois tries to hurt her, the servant stops him and reveals that he's the real Galois, and the one who came was his son, Jose. Galois explains that they were testing Sarifi to see if she's a good person who could be their queen, and she passed. Sarifi asks Leonhardt not to punish them for tricking everyone, so he tells them to keep protecting the kingdom from sea invaders. After everyone goes home, Leonhardt asks Sarifi to dance with him. Sarifi tells Galois that she feels like she's not good enough to be queen. Anubis wants to kick her out because of this, but Leonhardt says no. It turns out Anubis doesn't like Sarifi because he thinks she only got close to Leonhardt to save herself. Sarifi is looking for new books to read, and Anubis takes her to a library. But when they're alone, he tries to hurt her. Luckily, some books fall on him and knock him out. He has a memory from when he was a kid, and his name was Sirius. His dad, who was the previous Anubis, gave his life to save the old king from assassins. The king then made him the prince's helper. Sirius thought the prince was weird because he wouldn't step on ants and didn't like sword training. When the prince got sick, he took care of him, but they got kidnapped by the assassins. The bad guys tried to hurt Sirius, but the prince protected him and used magic to beat the bad guys. Then, Sirius changed his name to Anubis and devoted his life to Leonhardt. Anubis wakes up, and Seraphi is taking care of him. He's really mad and says he'll never accept her, but she doesn't mind and tells him that Leonhardt was worried about him too. Later, Anubis decides to test Seraphi to see if she's really the right person for Leonhardt. The Grand Consecration, which is a special day to celebrate Osmargo's founding, is coming up. On the night before, Leonhardt turns back into a human, so Seraphi hides him. He's really sad because he thinks his people would hurt him if they found out he can become human. The next morning, they're surprised to see he's still in his human form. The palace is searching for them, so they have to run and hide. Leonhardt slowly turns back into a beast, but he realizes he doesn't have enough time to get ready for the first ceremony. Seraphi talks to Judge Set, who finds them, and she keeps him busy until Leonhardt turns back into a beast. He decides to go to the first ceremony in his regular clothes and gives a great speech about changing and moving forward. After the Grand Consecration, Anubis gives Seraphi a choice. She can be acting queen consort, but if she doesn't do well, she'll get sent away. Or she can say no and just live with Leonhardt as his pet while he picks a new wife. With Benu's encouragement, she chooses to be acting queen consort. Jormungand is away on mission to fight some bad guys. He tells a soldier to stay home and take care of his pregnant wife. Amit makes good luck charms for both Jormungand and Seraphi, but she gets sad when she hears him say he's not interested in getting married. After Seraphi gets her charm, she talks to Amit and tells her not to give up on Jormungand. Amit gives him the charm before he leaves and makes him promise to come back safely. The court goes to an allied nation called Sarbal, so Seraphi can bless King Tet IV and Queen Kaura's new baby Kalkara. However, Kaura doesn't want a human to touch her baby. They have a big meal, but Leonhardt and Seraphi go to bed early. Leonhardt comforts her when she tells him that Kaura looked at her the same empty way her adoptive parents did. When they start the ceremony where Seraphi is supposed to hold Kalkara and kiss his forehead, Kaura pinches Kalkara to make him cry and delay the ceremony. Anubis noticed what she did, but he thinks it's a test for Seraphi. They decide to try the ceremony again the next day. The young Princess Tetra offers to show Seraphi around the palace. When Seraphi is alone with Tetra, Tetra says mean things to her and makes her do silly tasks like playing fetch, taking desserts, and pretending to be a horse. But she's surprised when Seraphi enjoys it and doesn't feel insulted. Tetra tells Seraphi that her mom has been ignoring her since Kalkara was born, and because no one loves her, she wants to jump off a tower to end her life. Seraphi tries to talk her out of it, and she's surprised when Queen Kaura shows up to help too. They convince Tetra that her mom loves her, but she loses her balance and falls off the tower. Seraphi tries to catch her, but they both fall and Gueber saves them. Kaura is grateful to Seraphi for helping her daughter and allows her to do the ceremony. Tetra and Seraphi have a sleepover, and Tetra says she likes Anubis. She's worried that if they got married, their kids would look like him because of his good genetics. Seraphi gets embarrassed when she talks about having kids with Leonhardt. Leonhardt takes Seraphi aside and tells her that he never knew his mom, and his dad, who was the previous king, was really strict with him and locked him up when he turned into a human. When his dad was dying, he said he hated Leonhardt for having human blood and tried to hurt him before he died. Because of this, Leonhardt was scared of having kids, but he promises to be with her once it's safe. The next day, Seraphi says goodbye to Tetra and her family, and they're all happy when Kalkara says his first words, "Big Sister." Seraphi is supposed to go to the town Magia to check on the troops and see a new lord being appointed. But Leonhardt can't come because he needs to be with a sick friend. Guards are supposed to go with her, but only the hyena named Lantevelt volunteers. She calls him Lant, and even though he doesn't have good manners, she doesn't mind. On the way, Lanti takes them on a different path, and they get attacked by big sand serpents. But he defeats them. Lanti admits to Seraphi that he brought them there on purpose to make himself look good. They get to Maja, and Seraphi encourages the troops by telling them that Leonhardt believes in them and wants them to do their best. The new Lord Braun is going to be official tomorrow. Some of the troops bother Lant because he's a hyena, saying his people were traitors in the past. Seraphi scolds them for being mean. Lant lies about himself, and Seraphi believes him until he tells her the truth. The next morning, they find out that Braun got attacked. Braun is going to be okay, but Lanti gets arrested because Braun says he attacked him. Seraphi is determined to prove Lanti is innocent, and Commander Tyrans helps her. Lanti thinks back to when he was a kid and tried to get medicine for his sick mom. Because he was a hyena, guards accused him of stealing the medicine and beat him up, which led to his mom's death. Seraphi and Tyrans find the real attacker, a badger who didn't like authority. Since most beasts are colorblind, Seraphi is the only one who can tell that the fur they found doesn't match Lant, but matches the badger. Lant is released, and he promises to be loyal to Seraphi forever for believing in him. Braun officially becomes the Lord of Magia. When they get back home, Seraphi is so tired that she faints and they send her to her room. Anubis doesn't like Lant's manners, but Leonhardt is impressed by his loyalty to Seraphi and makes him a knight. Amit is really worried because Jormungand hasn't come back from his mission. He's been defending people from rebels. When he finally comes back, he gives Amit's good luck charm back and tells her to give it to someone better, which makes her really sad. Seraphi asks him why he did that, but he won't say. Lant challenges him to a duel and Jormungand wins, but Leonhardt notices that Jormungand hurt his arm during his mission. Amit treats his arm, and he explains that he felt like he didn't deserve the charm because he got careless. She convinces him to take it back. In the human lands, Ilya sees two beasts trying to kidnap a child. He scares them off, but is surprised to find out the kid, Malo, is a beast. Malo tells Ilya that humans are hiring people to catch beasts for shows. Malo starts liking Ilya, which annoys him, but Ilya is amazed to see Malo act almost exactly like a human and be fascinated by flowers. Two human knights show up wanting Malo. Ilya says he doesn't care about him and lets the knights take him. But when Malo begs for help, Ilya remembers his sister and fights the knights off. Remembering what Seraphi said about beasts being like humans, Ilya takes Malo to the Osmargo border and tells him to go home. In Magia, some rebels are planning something against the king, but someone shows up and says they've been conscripted. Seraphi, Leonhardt, and the others are on a ship going to check out the kingdom Bolstobas, but Lanti feels sick from the sea. A messenger beast brings urgent news, and Leonhardt goes back to Osmargo on Gwyber after putting a protective charm on Seraphi's ring. Fenrir, the king of wolves, and his friend Nir attack the ship and hurt the guards. Fenrir is mad at Leonhardt and wants to take over Osmargo and be the new king. Seraphi offers herself as a hostage to save everyone, and Nir confirms to Fenrir that she's the queen. Lanti tries to fight them, but he's really sick from the sea, and Nir can control his swords with telekinesis, so Lanti gets hurt badly. Seraphi is taken away while Ben heals Lant and the others. Fenrir's forces are invading Osmargo, and people are scared and rioting. When they hear that Seraphi is captured, Anubis convinces Leonhardt to stay and calm the people, even though Seraphi told them not to save her. Leonhardt promises to defeat Fenrir and save Seraphi. Lante, Bennu, and C are looking for Seraphi in the desert. Fenrir tells Seraphi that he used to be a prince, but his family disowned him after he lost a fight to Leonhardt as kids. Now he wants to be king and create a world where the strong rule the weak. He's interested in Seraphi because she's not scared, and her ring protects her from his spells. He decides to win her heart, even though she says she only loves Leonhardt. Anubis leads Osmargo's army to fight rebels. Nir tries to get Anubis on their side and stabs him when he says no. Fenrir reveals that Nir is loyal to him because he saved him from slavery. Jormungand saves Anubis and hurts Nir, who escapes with them chasing him. Seraphi comforts Fenrir when he has a bad dream. Lant shows up and fights Fenrir, while Bennu frees Seraphi and flies her away. Seraphi makes him go back to rescue Lanti, who was losing. Just as they get out of the fortress, Lant and Bennu are too tired and collapse. Sai tells Klops where the fortress is, and Klops tells Leonhardt. Fenrir catches up to Seraphi and the others, but Leonhardt and Gwyber show up. Fenrir challenges Leonhardt to a duel to see who will be the king. Nir stops Jormungand and Anubis from getting involved, but they promise to just watch, so he doesn't fight them. Leonhardt and Fenrir use magic in their duel, but Leonhardt runs out of magic quickly. Fenrir realizes that he hasn't recovered from protecting Seraphi's ring, so he suggests they fight hand-to-hand, tooth and claw. They hurt each other a lot, and Leonhardt falls down, but he gets up when he hears Seraphi's voice. He seriously hurts Fenrir, but Fenrir won't give up. Nir suddenly stabs Fenrir in the back and takes his body away. Leonhardt falls down from his injuries, so they hurry back to the palace and take him to the healers. Sarifi takes care of him in private, now that he's in his human form. Nir carries Fenrir's body and remembers that Fenrir told him to kill him if he lost the duel. He asks what to do now that Fenrir was his only reason for living. Meanwhile, Set is exploring the Forbidden Archives. Osmargo has a parade to celebrate being Fenrir, but Anubis tells Leonhard it's not safe for Sarifi to go because some people still hate humans. Leonhard sadly agrees. Since Sarifi's ring broke in the fight, Leonhard takes her to a special tree and spring without any poison in the air to make a new one. Later, during a thunderstorm, he comforts her and talks about how he never knew his mom and doesn't know if she wanted him. He also mentions that it's almost time for the human kingdom Yona to send another sacrifice, and he wants to stop that. He plans to make peace with Yona so that humans and beasts can treat each other equally. Sarifi volunteers to go as a messenger, and Leonhard reluctantly says yes. Leonhard's court is mad about his new plans, but eventually they agree. Sarifi won't let Lant come with her because she's sure he would start fights, so she's going with Bennu only. They fly off with a letter for the human rulers. Meanwhile, Set finds out from the secret archives that all records of Leonhard's birth are gone. He says that once he knows the secrets, his plans will come true. Shortly after Sarifi and Bennu arrive in Yona, Ocelot, the commander of the knights, saves her from a con artist. When she explains her mission, she gets arrested. Later, Ocelot figures out who she is and lets her go, but the letter is in beast language and they can't read it. A hermit named the Witch of Shaddai knows the language, so Sarifi and Bennu go to her house. The witch looks a lot like Leonhard's human form, and she's not very friendly. She keeps telling Sarifi to leave. Two mean guys try to wreck the witch's Edelweiss garden, but they fight them off. When Sarifi says the Edelweiss flower represents remembrance, the witch remembers a boy who liked her when they were kids, but she turned him down. She says her name is Anastasia before Sarifi gets sick with a fever. While taking care of her, Anastasia shows a diary written in beast language. She explains that her family was ostracized because an ancestor had a child with a beast. Sarifi thinks this ancestor might be related to Leonhard, so she asks for the diary and invites Anastasia to come to the palace and read the letter. Meanwhile, Anubis catches Set sneaking into the Forbidden Archives. Set says he's royal and knows Leonhard's dark secret. Without telling Anubis the secret, Set asks him to help prove it by going to see Leonhard. Set tells Anubis to barge in if Leonhard tries to hide, but surprisingly, Leonhard agrees to see him. When Sarifi and Anastasia go to the palace, they find out that Ocelot was the childhood friend who tried to court her. Anastasia translates the letter, and the king gives Sarifi an audience. The king says he'll decide how to respond in a global council in 7 days. He's amazed when Sarifi says the beasts act just like humans. Sarifi goes home on Bennu and attends a council where Anubis promises to accept her as the true queen if the negotiations with Yona go well. Sarifi notices that Leonhard seems sad, so she asks him on a date. He takes her to a cave with colorful, glowing crystals, and she compares them to stars. Leonhard tells her that he's never seen the stars because whenever the miasma clears enough for them to be visible, he takes human form and has to hide. They promise to watch the stars together someday. The next day, Leonhard goes to make a formal announcement to the people about the peace treaty with Yona and Sarifi's existence. But Set uses a spell to clear the miasma away. Everyone is shocked when Leonhard turns back into a human right in front of them. As the citizens riot, Sarifi, Bennu, and Si get Leonhard away, and they take shelter in the crystal cave. Set explains to Anubis that Leonhard is a bastard child of the previous king and a human, while he is the son of the king and an official concubine, meaning he has royal blood. Set becomes the acting king and immediately orders the various beast races segregated, with the non-mammalian races persecuted. Jormungand is arrested for remaining loyal to Leonhard, but Ymit helps him escape, and they go on the run. While looking for food, Sarifi saves an amphibian child from being beaten by guards. Klops and Lante arrive and defeat the guards. As Lante fills her in, she realizes she left the diary behind and proposes retrieving it to prove Leonhard is legitimate. Leonhard has given up hope and wants to run away to Yona, but Sarifi reprimands him and restores his courage. Jormungand tells Ymit he owes Leonhard for accepting him despite anti-reptilian prejudice. They find the others and make a plan. Leonhard and Jormungand will distract the guards and Set, while Sarifi, Lant, and Bennu retrieve the diary. The two attack the guards while Set thinks Leonhard is insane to come back while still in human form. Serifi, Lant, and Bennu find a bizarre-looking, wounded creature chained up in the palace. He is Archpriest Capel, who has become undead and imprisoned by Set. He telepathically tells Serifi that when the previous king's wife died of illness without birthing an heir, he told Capel to seek his exiled twin. Capel found the twin had died but slept with a human and had a son. He took the newborn and passed him off as the king's son, Leonhardt. Capel reveals another secret before turning to dust. Set easily restrains Leonhardt and Jormungand with magic and crucifies Leonhardt before the people. Anubis captures Serifi, Lant, and Bennu before interrogating Serifi on whether she knew Leonhardt was part human and if she would still love him if he wasn't, and she says she would. Anubis drags Serifi over, and Set orders him to kill her, but he stabs Set instead, affirming his loyalty to Leonhardt and breaking his restraints. Set wounds him in retaliation, but Galwai, Jose, and their forces arrive to defend Leonhardt and the others. Set is infuriated when messengers say Sarbel and Magia have rejected his rule and forces from Yona lead by Oslot and Ilya are defending the non-mammalians from his enforcers. Amit joins Lante, and they destroy the ward keeping the miasma cleared. When Serifi calls Set unworthy to be king, he angrily blasts her into the sky. Leonhardt leaps to catch her with Gwyber just as he returns to beast form. Set claims Leonhardt returning to beast form changes nothing as everyone already knows the truth, but Leonhardt says Set is unworthy because he divided the people instead of protecting them. Furious, Set roars that his mother died penniless despite birthing a prince and attacks with magic, but Leonhardt blocks his spells. A stone Capel gave Serifi plays a recording that reveals the previous king was sterile and Set's father was someone random. Unable to believe he is not royalty, Set attempts a big spell, but his body reaches its limits and breaks down. As Anubis recovers from his wounds, he decides to leave to atone for betraying Leonhardt, but Leonhardt assures that they are still friends and convinces him to stay. Jormungand and Lante deal with Set's loyalists. Serifi finally recovers the diary and lets Leonhardt read it. It says Leonhardt's mother met his father, the king's exiled twin, after a battle, and they fell in love. His father died of his wounds while she was pregnant, and she wanted to name him Richard. After Capel took him away, she wanted to let him know that he was loved. Jormungand declares his love for Amit. Leonhardt officially announces the peace treaty with Yona and Serifi as his queen and promises that even with human blood, he will protect them, to the cheers of the crowd. Leonhardt and Serifi officially marry with everyone, including Ilya, approving. Several years later, they have a son named Richard who can switch between beast and human form at will. While bored with a lesson from Anubis, Richard asks him about his parents, so Anubis tells the story of how Serifi came to them.